Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020 Board of Directors Meet the Candidates Forum. For anyone who may not know, my name is Diana Luna and I recently took over as the Grand Haven Property Manager. This afternoon, we are conducting the Meet the Candidates for the Board of Directors annual election scheduled for December 7th. A mailing was also sent to all owners with each candidate's application and resume. I have screen shared the agenda for the participants to follow along. Unfortunately, Tim McEvely, the current board president, had a family matter to attend, so he will not be joining us on this meeting. Each candidate will have the opportunity to speak, provide their background and why they are interested in running for the board. Following this, there will be a Q&A portion for owners to address any questions they may have for the candidates. You may also provide or send your questions through the chat message. And I do want to remind you that there is currently 3 open positions and 4 candidates running. So we will begin with our first candidate listed, which is Pat Artman. Give me just one second.
Is her audio on, Diana?
Let me check, hold on just a second. Pat, I'm sending a request to unmute. Can you see that?
Got it?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thanks for sending that. So you let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Just one second. I'm just trying to get I'm not sure it's going to let me screen share that for some reason. Okay, Pat, I'm sorry. For some reason, it's not letting me screen share the picture.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So you can begin. I apologize.
No, that's okay, no problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Pat Artman. I live here at Grand Haven, of course, and I have been your treasurer on the board for the last 3 years. I'm going to start with my life here at Grand Haven. My life before Grand Haven. As you can read my resume, my work experience was primarily in healthcare, in the financial aspects of healthcare. I won't go through all the particulars. You can read that for yourselves. I worked in different capacities over close to 25 years at several large hospitals in Chicago. Prior to leaving healthcare, I decided midlife to open up a small business. I think I was having a midlife crisis, but I opened up a small business with 2 retail locations, and I did that for approximately 10 years. And after retiring, I volunteered for the Friends of the Library, trying to increase their membership and so on. And also I volunteered as a genealogist assistant in the genealogy department of the library. Like I said, out of these life experiences, I've discovered that I love working with people and I love numbers. Um, my husband and I decided to retire at 55, and we moved to Arizona first. And then from there, we went to Arkansas and eventually back to Chicago 7 years ago. At that time, I moved into Grand Haven, and we wanted a central location, and Grand Haven was perfect. And we wanted to live in a 55 plus community because we felt at our stage of life, it was important to be amongst people that share perhaps some of our same interests. My passions, I have to say, in life have been raising my son, nurturing my marriage, baseball, photography, genealogy, uh, and civic involvement. Um, and why I decided to do this initially was because I wanted to give back to my community. And I felt I had the time to do it. So my the second part of my story is here at Grand Haven. Um, I've been on the board since September of 2017. In August of 2017, someone approached me and asked if I would apply for a position on the board that became available due to a member leaving the community. I filled that spot, and in January of 2018, I was asked if I would take on the responsibility of treasurer. Nancy Felbinger, the treasurer at the time, was retiring. However, because of lack of candidates, Nancy thankfully remained on the board. Because I like numbers and in particular managing money, I accepted the position of treasurer. With Nancy's guidance and years of experience, I gradually learned the ins and outs of the financial structure of a homeowners association. I have now served as your treasurer, closing in on 3 years. That first year was an eye opener as the board, along with the finance and town hall committee, were faced with very large expenses that come with being a closed, aging community. It is almost akin to a small village, I would say. The mill and overlay of the Grand Haven roads was on schedule, and it was time to speak with an engineer. Early that year, we had our first meeting, and it continued on throughout the year until we could find a final solution that would satisfy the need, but also not proposing a special assessment or securing a loan. I'm especially proud to have been involved in that process. Because of that, we decided to establish an ad hoc committee to continually evaluate all of our future expenditures that are considered reserved, not operational. Not that we don't employ every 2 to 3 years a professional reserve company, we do, but now we closely monitor this area of our finances. Our community is at an age where larger expenses are occurring more frequently, and we must be prepared. Think of this as the same as an older used car. You must maintain all the parts to make it operate smoothly. The same premise applies to our little village, Grand Haven. Recruiting new members for our finance committee as we lose members is a high priority. All committees are an important aspect of our Grand Haven village, but for me, the board treasurer, an active finance committee, along with the property manager, is an absolute necessity. In joining the board, there was a definite learning curve, as this is a different experience from my life experiences. Unless you have served on this type of a board, you cannot possibly start, and let me use this metaphor, with guns blazing. It's a slow and steady race to accomplish the best results for our community. I am now in the race, so that's why I'm asking you for your vote for the board. I truly want to continue my work. Before making the decision to run for another 2-year term, excuse me. I had many hours of thoughtfulness. And of course, had a meaningful conversation with my life partner, Jim. Sorry. As you who have served know, your decision affects not only yourself, but those closest to you. Additionally, I consulted with my fellow board members and the property manager. After considering everything, I made my decision. I am asking you for your vote, and I promise if I'm elected, I will work as hard for Grand Haven, sorry, in the future as I have tried in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I'm just going to switch screens here. Excuse me. The next candidate is John Servatka. Unfortunately, he is in surgery today, so he will not be joining us. I will move on to our third candidate, which is Tricia Stevenson. I'm going to go ahead and ask to unmute. Hi, Tricia.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Zoom meeting. It's nice to see some faces to match some names with. Some of you I have met in the past or have had the pleasure of speaking to at previous board meetings when we were able to do them in the lodge. Hey, Manny. I am excited to be here at Grand Haven. I have, as I had mentioned in the questionnaire, not only have my husband and I lived here now since June of 2018, but I had the pleasure of helping my parents find a home here in Grand Haven in 2006, when Lady Lee, I think, was the only realtor showing properties at Grand Haven at the time. And as a result of that experience, it was a long search to help them find the right place for them. And we definitely made the right decision. And it definitely influenced my husband and I's decision to move to Grand Haven. Just the people alone, never mind all the great amenities that are afforded to us in here. The people were fantastic to my parents. My mom was really always too ill to ever really have the opportunity to get out and do stuff. But my dad was very, very active. And I found myself here, especially near the end of his time here, literally here almost every day. So I got to know a lot of the people here at Grand Haven, and we're thrilled to be here. As my resume indicated, most of my working experience has been in the world of education. I was in the development department where my particular role was to do a lot of research, prospect research, looking for donors to help the university identify these people and offer them the opportunity to share their philanthropy with the university. And a part of the way that works is there's a lot of fundraising, there's a lot of events, a lot of stewardship throughout that whole process. So a lot of people face-to-face, just getting to know people and helping everybody to achieve what is their ultimate goal in life, which I'm happy to say it was to help other people. In the end, that's what it's all about. And I feel like when you volunteer for a board like this, that's exactly what you're doing. You're saying, hey, I want to be involved. I want to offer whatever my experience or expertise can bring to the community. We have been able to, we took a slow start in joining any boards here because it took us a while to get settled in. But once we did, we joined the Social Dance Club, the Generation to Generation Club, and then just this past season, the Golf Club, which has offered us the opportunity to, you know, meet even more people. And it's a very diverse group that we've got out here between, you know, people's interests, their backgrounds, our ages. You know, we've got 55 to 90 something. So it's a very diverse group, but I do feel like there's something for everybody. And I just feel like it's time after being here, like I said, living here for 2.5 years now, to see what I can do to help out. So I would appreciate your support. I'd like to be a part of the process and asking for your vote. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Trisha. Okay, our fourth candidate, I don't believe he's online, so we will move on to the Q&A. If there are any questions, feel free to use the chat message and I can go ahead and read those off. If you would like to speak, you can also let me know and I can unmute you. I don't see any chats coming in.
Maybe Tricia could give us a little bit more of her background.
In what regard? What would you like to know? I'm sorry, I can't hear her.
Diane, you're on mute. Here you go.
Okay. What she did for a living, if she worked at all outside the home?
Yes, I did. After my kids were of school age, I went back to work and I started off by working for a law firm in Joliet. And I worked there as a paralegal for a couple of years. After that, I went to work for Lewis University. And I started off there being the admin for the vice president of development. And from there, the president asked me to come on board and be his executive administrative assistant. And when an opportunity arose in the back in the development office to be a prospect researcher, I changed positions, and it was a long time working in there. I believe about 11 years I worked in the development office as a prospect researcher.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I do have one question in the chat. It says, will there be an opportunity to listen to the other candidates in the future? Currently, this was the only forum that was set up for the Meet the Candidates. It's something that I could pass along to the board, and if they do decide to have another one, we can send out the information. But as a reminder, we did send out all the applications and resumes to all the owners. So you can also review those. If you need a copy, please feel free to reach out to me and we can send that over as well.
Diana? It's
Yes.
Pat.
Yes. Hi, Pat.
Hi. I do want to apologize for my pauses. So I sometimes, when I think of my family, I get a bit emotional. So
It's okay, no worries.
not the best time.
We all understand. Thank you, Pat. I do have a chat coming in. This is to all the candidates present. What do you believe is the biggest opportunity here at Grand Haven? And we can start with Pat if you'd like.
Well, I've been thinking about that. And, considering what I've experienced here at Grand Haven for the last 3+ years, being on the board, I've always felt that I would love to see an open communication system in some form. And it quite frankly saddens me when I sit at board meetings and I look out into the audience, not now, of course, but in the past, and I see so very few people attending the meetings. And so I've always felt that, I'd like to work to expand that and broaden that somehow. And I've been thinking about this today, how we use this technology now with Zoom, and also being able to record the session and place it on the Grand Haven website. So I think we have a real opportunity to expand into that area to better communicate with the community. So I see that as a real opportunity, because I know that there's a segment that doesn't always hear all that we have to share completely, I'll say. So I see this as a real opportunity, and I think we have the tools to do it. So that would be my answer to that question.
Thank you, Pat. Trisha?
Yeah, I would have to concur with that. And I feel like that was kind of a common denominator in all of the applicants looking for a possible position on the board this year. It was all about communication and a better way of how we can elicit feedback from, as I said earlier, our very diverse community. And although all of the world right now, or a large portion of our world, is working from home and doing things like this and having Zoom meetings, it might not be quite as common amongst those of us that live here in Grand Haven. Not everybody, is comfortable, doing Zoom or even emailing. And I know there's been a couple of people that we've actually taught how to text in our little subdivision here at Grand Haven. So I feel like it's kind of a learning thing, and I'm hopeful that that's something that perhaps we could even incorporate, going forward, is some kind of computer. I know that Manny is a whiz at this stuff, and I know that he has been soliciting and hoping to get more people on board with the whole committee for the internet and what have you. But I feel like that would be really helpful and instrumental, because people would have another means of being able to communicate. And I love the idea of this, of being able to be face to face versus, here's an email, and then somebody's emailing you back. to me, it's almost like the snail mail of days gone by, right? Where you'd write a letter and somebody would write back to you. But being able to actually have this conversation, I ask a question, you ask a question, we can answer one another and see each other, I think is really amazing. So
Yeah.
that's really my answer, is how we can continue to improve upon our ability to communicate with one another and get the input from the community. I feel like this community, we literally are hundreds of people. You know, if we just said there's one person living in every townhouse or single family house, you know, that's hundreds of people. But yet when you go to a meeting or you go to a Zoom like this and you see, you know what, maybe 20 people, it's, you know, and then you question, well, what is happening? Is there a lack of interest? You know, what can we do differently? Are they just, or on the other hand, are they just so happy with the way things are going that they're like, yeah, you guys keep doing it, you know, keep on going. I don't really know what the answer is to that, but you know, anything we can do to get more input and more feedback. I just feel like, you know, the more minds you have working on something, you know, it lightens the load for everybody. It's not quite so overwhelming when you're like, hey, everybody's behind this. Yes, this is the right way to go.
Great. Thank you, Tricia. I do have another question. It is, as newcomers, what does the board make decisions on? Pat?
Well, we make, you know, immediately the first thing that comes to my mind, being the treasurer, is we make large financial decisions when we have larger projects that occur in the community. We make decisions on, you know, quite frankly, you know, we interface with the company that we employ, FSR, our management company, and our property manager, of course. And, you know, based on, I don't know, you know, I can think of a zillion things that happen that we make decisions on. But generally speaking, most things come up at board meetings. They're addressed, voted on, and approved, or, you know, not approved.
Thank you, Pat. I'm not sure if that's something at this point, not being on the board.
Right. I mean, I was going to say the only thing I would really add to that is based on my experience of going to board meetings and or doing it via Zoom. You know, just looking at the budgets sheet that comes out, you know, every year that speaks to what the budget is, all those line items are comprised of all the literally dozens and dozens of things that the board, you know, has to weigh and make decisions on, whether it's, hey, do we go with Constellation again for our electric, which was something that just at this last budget presentation was one of the items that was discussed. And yes, you know, we should, because it's going to, you know, be a cost savings for all the residents. So it's really just about everything that impacts you as a resident here. You know, who will be hired to take care of the streets? You know, what kind of contract do we want to give to acres? I mean, it's everything, you know, other than like your own personal, you know, you're picking out your own Comcast, right? Comcast, sorry. No, I don't work for Comcast. You're choosing your own internet provider, but yeah, they make a lot of decisions. So
Right.
it's a lot of work, and honestly, it's they deserve a lot of praise for all the time and effort that they've put into all that they've done, and done an incredible job. So kudos to them.
Well, can I interject something? I think that the first thing that comes to mind, is anything financial because of my role. So I didn't want to, not speak to all the other things that the board has to, address. But yeah, my focus has been obviously finance, and all the things that, Tricia just mentioned are part of our daily life. I mean, we're constantly making decisions and trying to, keep the expenses as low as we can, to ensure that we try to keep your assessment reasonable, and that we try not to have to go to you and ask you for a special assessment, or tell you that we might have to take out a loan. So yeah, I mean, I could just go on and on about the financial aspect of Grand Haven. But we are, as I said, in my presentation, to me, we're like a little village. We're a closed gated community. So therefore, it's our responsibility, each and every one of us that's signed into this type of living, it's our responsibility to, in fact, pay for everything that we enjoy, whether we choose to or not. So, yeah, the board has just had tons and tons of discussions since I've been here over the 3 years. So thank you for bringing up that question. Don't get me started on finances because I'll never stop.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
I'll give a few moments if there's any further questions.
This is Manny. Am I muted or can you hear me?
We can hear you, Manny.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you too, Manny.
I have a compelling question.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I have a compelling question for all of the candidates, and one that I failed to ask Diane Peterson, but since she's on this call, I guess I can ask her here. And having my background is in human resources. It's not in technology, but it's in human resources. So my compelling question to the three of you is, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? I'm just kidding.
Thank God.
Actually, I want to thank all the candidates for everything that they do. You guys do a wonderful job. Those that are planning to run, again, thanks for doing that. I admire everything that you do. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
this is
you, Manny.
Gail Pike. Hi, this is Gail Pike. I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Gail.
Oh, besides the finance part of what the board does, what else do they do? I mean, everybody's talking about finances. Yes, that's important, but does the board members do anything else than that?
Well, I will tell you, Gail, that I'll address something that's come up most recently because of our situation in the world with this disease or outbreak, this virus, is that we've had to make some tough decisions about how do we go forward with opening or closing our clubhouse. How do we address this situation from, I'll say, from a financial aspect? I know I've had lots of comments about the assessment possibly going down because of the residents not being able to use the clubhouse, because we chose to follow the guidelines and shut it down partially. So that was a decision that had to be made, and not an easy one, and continues to not be an easy one, because here we are again. We're in a different phase, and how do you protect everyone, and but understanding that you're taking away something that you've come to use, and so on. So hello.
I'm still here.
Okay.
What I don't understand is I'm new. I moved in May. I understand the COVID. I totally understand that. But I mean, is there other activities, Zoom or something else that we could do to bring the community together, not personally, but per Zoom meetings, per putting something up that, guess what at this house, guess whose house is the best decorated, whose dog is the cutest, who's this, who's that. I understand COVA, I totally do, but there has to be other resources that we can look at to bring us together as a community other than face to face.
Well, I think that's a good comment, and that's what I was, quite frankly, thinking about, because we've been having all of these Zoom meetings. It was just apparent that this is technology we can use, and we can expand it in some way to help people not to feel so isolated. For those who choose to remain in their homes because they're, quite frankly, afraid to go out. This is something that we can do. We can expand upon this in the future. Again, this is all new to us. So we're I think trying to find the right answers.
Because I know there's probably people in the community that are isolated and they don't see anybody. Isn't there some way we can, as a community, reach out to individuals saying, if you need help, if you need someone to go grocery shopping for you, or do you need someone to pick up your prescription? They're allowing us to go in the store. We could go pick it up and put it on their door and ring the doorbell and leave. We have an older community, and an older community, sometimes older individuals don't know how to ask for help. And maybe we need to reach out to people in our community, letting them know that we are here to help them. If it's nothing to go by and wave at them and say hi. I walk my dog and I see people, and people wave at each other. It doesn't take that much to help our community.
Well, I commend you for, feeling this way. And I would hope, like we do, I'm in a townhome, and we, in our 6-pack, we look out for each other, and that's why I moved into this. That was one of the reasons why I moved into this community, at my age, knowing that, you're in this, most likely you're in a similar situation as your neighbor. So, being in this type of setting is perfect, for seniors. So we try, in our 6-pack, we try to help each other out as best we can. And we're constantly in touch with each other by phone. If my neighbor needs something, my husband, is right there to go to the store, to pick up milk, to bring the garbage can out to the curb, to pick up the mail, things like that. So hopefully that's happening throughout this community. You know, even if you're not in a townhome setting, you know, even in the single family neighborhoods.
It doesn't
So,
hurt.
I mean, I guess my question to you, Gail, is it something that you think that the board should be more proactive in marketing, you know,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term?
Yes, I think we need to reach out to other six packs, because maybe other six packs aren't like your six packs. I was walking my dog and I don't know the family. There was an elderly gentleman and his wife trying to move a cabinet. They were trying to put it on a dolly, and people drove by, people walked by. Nobody offered. I went over and said, "Can I help you?" I mean, they said yes. And then all of a sudden another person saw me and said, "Can I help?" I mean, you see them struggling, but it's not your concern. You just keep walking. You don't say, "May I help?" And yeah, Kova, you got to be careful, but put a mask on, stand 6 feet apart and say, "Is there something I can do? Can I help you?" I'm in a six pack that know everybody, but I know people in other six packs who's reached out to me. So why couldn't we reach out to other six packs to say, is there something I can do? Can you solicit it from the board? Can you send something out? I mean, a lot of people are ashamed to ask for help. And you know that. So why can't we as a community try to reach out, knowing who our most elder residents are, and just reach out, ring the doorbell, step away. Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything you need? And if there's nothing they need, well, at least they saw somebody cared enough to ask.
Well, again, I commend you for your heart, you know, and your thoughtfulness. And, you know, I think we can certainly send something out again. And my fear is always that not everybody is reached because they're not able to access technology.
Then you
So-
knock on and ring a doorbell. And I don't mean to sound that way, but a lot of people cannot or do not understand computers. So it doesn't hurt to ring a doorbell and step back with a mask on. "Hi, I'm Gail. I live down the street. Is there anything you need? Is there something I can do for you?" That doesn't hurt. And if they're grumpy and say no and shut the door, well, then that's okay. You just go on to the next one.
Well, and I do think, I don't know if you're aware of this, we do have neighborhood reps for each area.
I have
And
never
I know that
since May, I have never met my rep. Nobody has knocked on my door and introduced themselves to me as "I'm your neighborhood rep." So I don't know who my neighborhood rep is.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
What neighborhood do you live in, Gail?
I'm in Saginaw.
Oh, you're in Saginaw?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I am too.
I don't know who my neighborhood rep is. Have no idea. And as a neighborhood rep, my understanding as a neighborhood rep is you want to know what's going on in your neighborhood. You know, I moved in May.
Right.
Nobody and introduced themselves.
Right.
I'm your neighborhood rep. Is there something I can do for you? Is there anything you don't understand? Nope, not happening.
You know,
Well,
Gail, sorry.
I have to say that, you know, I think there are people who are afraid, okay, to be out and about. I know that, you know, we all try to be safe. I mean, personally, I haven't been out of the house because I have other physical problems. So, but I know that there are people out there that are concerned about contact. So that may be the reason why we are where we are. I mean, I don't think you would have found this, Gail, if you would have moved in here instead of this past May, the previous May. I think you would have found that it was much different. I think we're just dealing with something that's so extreme that, you know, we have to be understanding too.
I totally agree with you. I totally do. But I just, I just don't understand it. If we're a loving community and we care about our residents and everybody that lives here, come on, let's stand up and do something. If you're afraid to go knock on somebody's door, that's fine. I understand. But we go out and walk our dogs. People go out and walk. You know, it doesn't hurt. You have a mask, you have gloves. If the person doesn't want to answer the door, that's fine. But at least show that, you know, somebody is knocking on your door to make sure you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Gail, if I may, I will say that my experience when we moved in here was the complete opposite. But again, it was not during COVID. And we were not in our house 24 hours when my doorbell rang, and there was our unbelievably sweet representative, Linda Sendra, with a 2-page handwritten letter explaining exactly who she was, her whole background, and her phone number and her email address, and how can she help. And then she was emailing me and calling me, and she could not have been more helpful. And to this day, you know, she's the one out delivering that magazine when it comes every month. And that's been our experience. So I think, you know, Pat, you may have hit that right on the head, the nail head with maybe that's why, Gail, your neighborhood rep hasn't been out. It could be very well that they could be sick. They could be, you know, dealing with taking care of family members. There's any number of things that could happen that could be happening there. But, you know, maybe it's something that can be looked into to, you know, see who that person is, and maybe they need some help right now.
Right. And that's what I was talking about. We need to reach out to each other.
Absolutely.
That's all I was saying.
Yep.
Just thank you both.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't see any more chat messages or questions. I'll give it just a couple more minutes or seconds.
Diana,
Yes.
may I ask, since I can't really tell by looking at the phone here, how many people have joined this session?
We have, originally we had a total of 16, but it looks like it went down to 12. So there were originally 16 on.
Okay.
If I could, this is Manny. I'd like to comment a couple of things with regards to what Gail brought up, and I concur with what she's saying. But I also see what Pat is saying at Artman in terms of escalating this to the board, because it seems to be a common thread now, not just even from the earlier session, that better communication amongst the neighborhoods is certainly merited. And we have an opportunity there. I know that the neighborhood reps from neighborhood to neighborhood are different, but I'm not sure whose responsibility it is to provide that leadership to them in terms of what they're responsible for as a neighborhood rep. And I think some go above board and above and beyond more than others do. And again, I don't know all of the ins and outs of the neighborhood rep position. That could help and enhance in terms of the communication. Gail, at one point there was a group, and I believe that Jeannie Prihoda was the one that kind of helped with that, and Grand Haven Helpers. And I just looked in the community keeper, and I don't see that group it doesn't appear that group exists anymore, but it was precisely just to do that. And of course, the neighborhood rep was one that was a conduit, I guess, in terms of that lifeline, so to speak. Uh, and I'll close with this. Zoom is certainly a great avenue. We talked about having some communication, two-way communication. I'll be the first one to say that, and some of you already know, and I've already escalated this to the board, that to make a recommendation. Some of you know that I began the Facebook page 4 or 5 years ago. And it was a wonderful thing because we were able to communicate and above and beyond, and the website even provides to link to that. But we chose not to do that. The board chose not to get involved with that, which was fine, but I had asked the board that I was going to go ahead and to lead this effort in terms of the Facebook group or Facebook page. Everything was fine up until COVID hit. And once COVID hit, then unfortunately there were the rules of the road, let's put it this way, were not being adhered to in terms of the Facebook page, which prompted me to shut it down. But I have escalated to or made a recommendation in my meeting notes, not this past meeting, the one prior, in terms of the board taking a closer look at that to see if we can, revive that and manage that piece. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the resources to manage and the bandwidth, because that does that does take some time, et cetera. So, but I think it's an opportunity for us to look at. And it seems like it runs a common thread with the neighborhoods in terms, everything that we've done here for the past 17, however, well, I've been here since it first opened. It's always been by neighborhood, and we've never had communication inter-neighborhood wise, so to speak. So, which is fine, but I think that we have some opportunities there. So, and that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Manny.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I do want to thank Pat and Tricia for speaking today and providing, your information and background. This will conclude our forum. So thank you to everyone who joined, and I hope to see everyone at the annual election.
I do have a quick question for you, Diana.
Sure.
One of the candidates was not present. Was that by design, or?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I said, one of the candidates was not present in this forum, Ron Neiman. Was there an issue, or did he drop out, or what? Do we know?
No, not to my knowledge. Everything was sent to him, the emails, and the Zoom meeting invite. There has been no response from him.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Diana. Appreciate your time too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manny, for all your assistance as well. I really do think we can find some ways to expand on all of this. And, I did want to say quickly before we end that, the neighborhood reps meet once a quarter with the board, and they report on what's happening in their neighborhood and what issues are prominent at the time. So as far as a structure, I'm not aware of any specific structure or guidelines for the neighborhood reps. But as I said, they do meet once a quarter with the board. So I think we've always felt that that was the conduit to the neighborhoods, you know, to hear about any issues that might not be reported from people who don't have access to technology, you know, or perhaps don't go to the clubhouse, et cetera, you know, things like that. So.
Okay, well, thank you. Understood. And I think it's just looking for some commonality in terms of what they do so that there's consistency from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah, I understand your point. So
Yeah.
I'm going to mull that over.
Okay, all right. I don't
Um,
want to take everybody's time here. I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, folks. And as I walk, I will wave.
Happy Thanksgiving, Manny.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thank
day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.